Good morning, everyone, and welcome back from the weekend break. I hope you had a restful weekend. Imam, you have the floor. If you can offer some prayers, please.
Auzubillahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Ar-Rahmanir Rahim. Maliki yawmiddin. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. Ihdina as-siratal mustaqim. Siratal ladzina an'amta 'alaihim ghairil maghdubi 'alaihim waladdallin. Falillahil hamdu. Rabbus samawati wa rabbul ardi. Rabbul alamin. Huwal hayyu la ilaha illa huwa. فادوه مخلصين له الدين الحمد لله رب العالمين الحمد لله رب العالمين الحمد لله رب العالمين آمين.
Ameen. Shukran, Imam Jallo. Bishop, you have the floor, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Lord God of all power and might, we thank you for seeing us through safely throughout the past week and for ushering us to the beginning of another new week. We continue to submit the sittings of the TRRC throughout this week under your direction. We commit all the witnesses that will appear here, and we do ask that you shall grant that they will speak the truth and only the truth, and grant the Commission the discerning spirit to discern between truth and falsehood, and grant the people of this nation and the diaspora the patience to be able to go through the proper proceedings, so that at the end of it, justice will be done for everyone. This we ask through Christ our Lord. Amen.
Amen. Thank you very much, Bishop Odiko. Council, are we ready with this morning's witness? If so, please proceed.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, and members of the audience. We are ready to proceed. I believe the witness is available, and Sagar Thomas Jahate would lead the witness. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Over to you, Sagar.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, Commissioners and members of the audience. We are ready to proceed with the next witness, and the usher is getting him. Thank you.
I, Lamin Jammeh.
I, Lamin Jammeh.
Do swear that.
Do swear that.
I'll speak the truth.
I'll speak the truth.
The whole truth.
The whole truth.
And nothing but the truth.
And nothing but the truth.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Thank you.
Yes.
Good morning, Mr. Jammeh.
Good morning.
Welcome to the TRRC.
Thank you, ma'am.
And thank you for coming at very short notice this morning.
Thank you.
I would just like to go through some of the rules and regulations we spoke about when we met earlier.
you.
Lafita nga sartolu dolu foye nyanta tamala mennu la jang domandi ngum foye num komanto domandi.
The overriding consideration here at the TRRC is your duty to speak the truth.
Memmo ko kumuti jambi ila lodu la to TRRC jambi wala yakata nyabe sio nyama yeto nya dammanfo.
It is an offense under the TRRC Act as well as the laws of the Gambia for failing to speak the truth.
Adun na Gambia jang loi balantala le anin TRRC nyati lumula puru ka balanka to nyafo.
Because your testimony is under oath.
Katu ye kalile foka pare kuranola.
I would also advise you just to assume a very comfortable seating position and draw the microphone closer to you so you don't have to strain.
Bitumbeya marala nyimfanana yesi siku si nyama mente batandila ni lafta yesembe microphone katandi fanna satara si nyate batandila.
Although you're speaking in English, just keep in mind that there's interpretation in Mandinka as well as other local languages going in the background.
Hanni bedi amla angale kaunto fana nyawnyandi mbari bitum isi ila kuma kaunto sutiyandi bitu ya doman katu molle be koma jang menu ba kanna sori kan.
Therefore, just take very short statements so that the interpreters can also follow you as well as the audience.
Wala na puru ila kumo ikane jamfandi baba bake puru kanna sori lalu sa faham isa kanna sori no anyama.
Additionally, listen to my questions before you answer just to avoid overlapping speeches.
Yo isi la mo na nyinin karol fana na kende ke janne be jabiro ke la puru na kumulu kana sele nyokan.
I would like to give you a brief overview of what your testimony would entail.
Mbe aitandile la domanding bitung ila CDRO be fanna lu melnu mala bi.
We will start by going into your biographical information.
Mba folo la ite fongo la kibaro le la wolem itele mu jumati.
Looking briefly at your educational background and professional history.
Mba jube la fanang ila karawni la londo aketa nyadi le anim fanang ila do ko londo la karola aketa nyadi le.
In particular focus on your professional history would be your time at the Birkama Area Council.
Andun na nyatili nyafang abetil na fanna do la bake wolem ye wato menke Birkama Area Council.
And how you rose through the ranks to Chief Executive Officer.
Hanufo ila palaso la fata nyamen kabula nyono ma hanufo inata ke Chief Executive Officer ti.
How you were subsequently dismissed.
Hanufo inate ibondi do ko la nyamen.
Detained at the NIA.
Inate muta ke sindi NIA.
Later detained at the Banjul police station.
Inate muta ke Samba Banjul police korda ba fananto.
You were then prosecuted.
Inate kitindi.
For unlawful. You were then prosecuted for providing false information.
Inate kitindi ka foko ye kuma soto balole di.
About your claim that you were unlawfully terminated. Sorry.
Ka foko ye mem foko ye baydo ko la menni silo mantanyola.
After you had filed a civil suit in the High Court for unlawful termination.
Katwayatara ye samaniro ke High Court ka foko ye baydo ko la nyame mani silo manta.
We would like you to highlight any human rights violations that you suffered.
Mbelafla ye yitandiro ke hadamaya nyanto la tinya faso wo faso na membo itete kan.
As well as those that you witnessed.
Aning yemenu sedea.
We would then look at the impacts of what this experience had on you.
Bitun sina jube nying mantoro ye munkule si ite fango kungoma.
Especially in relation to your family.
Sako ay mem fanansi ila dimbaya aluma.
And your subsequent exile.
Aning inata banko bula katasi banko e bantala.
I hope this is fully understood and you are ready to proceed.
Ngamera yenyum fahamule andun silang iparetale puruka CDRO damuta.
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah.
Can you give us your full names, please?
Saying ito puruka safe seyakamba ito ni kontong.
My name is Lamin Jammeh.
Nto Lamin Jammeh.
Can you tell us when and where you were born?
Afanyeng iwuluta mintole andu iwuluta tumajumale.
I was born on the 17th of July 1957 at Sukuta.
I was born on the 17th. Aka wuluta July karotil tan ngorowulo Sukuta sate oto. 1987. 1957.
And where do you currently reside?
Sa ibesiri mintole.
Currently residing at Sukuta.
Mbesiri Sukuta le sa nyintembeng.
What is your profession?
Muna muila do koti.
Chartered architect and structural engineer.
Ndemu bullo lalti me ya lonko loro londo at sambola karola ngawle londo soto.
Consultancy.
Anim fana nimmel lafta wuduku façon la isinan kan nse kan nyininka nsa boye nyoto.
Are you currently employed?
Sa nyintembe be do kola bang.
On my own private works.
Ambem fansun do kola la.
Can you tell us what you're doing at the moment?
Sa nga fonya nyintembe be mun do ku façon la be munela.
I do consultancy.
Nka kibaru ludi molla ila lo rolu Kenya la karola.
And I also do construction.
Andu nka loro fananke moli yen nimmenu lafta loro la.
And I also prepare design of buildings, roads, whatever is required.
Andu bungululo nya nka anu nu moli yen kata hanifo silolu anillo fen kotangol ni doku fen kotangol.
I also do research works as well.
Andu nka kisiro fanankele doku samba nyato.
Can you go briefly into your educational background, please?
Saying fem fonye je wa ka kumo suti andi dorong ila karango ya follow damen hanfo ila karango londo danta damen.
Well, I started my primary education at Sukuta Primary School.
Nanna primary karambungu damuta Sukuta primary karambungu leto.
Then the classes were called Standard 1, Standard 2, Standard 3, Standard 4.
Otumo ka fo class olien Standard 1, Standard 2, Standard 3 kata hanfo Standard 4.
So up to Standard 4.
Ni tata for Standard 4.
That's the time you sit to your common entrance.
Otumolem ekalondi kontiboke eka for me common entrance to Babu County.
And with any success in your in the common entrance.
Ni inata ganyo soto common entrance la londi kontibo nyindo.
Some people were awarded scholarships.
Dolu si scholarship soto wole nyindi sita karambu to bita karambu mbamento satara jorite kang.
But beyond that also, sometimes school fees at the time was just actually free. Because Gambia's currency was then pounds, shillings, and pence.
Gambia la kodo ko ya londi nyamin wolem pound, shillings, and pence.
So I was able to have scholarship to Hermitage School.
Mr.
Jammeh, can you just tell us how you were able to obtain a scholarship? On what basis or what criteria?
Mr. Jammeh, saying afonya yes scholarship soto nyadile alata nyadile mune fana ya sababu hani for scholarship soto.
In those days, you know, you have competitions.
And
those are the days which you have best quality of education as well. Because you have to master everything that you learn. And you must be clever enough to understand what you are being taught. So eventually, by the time you sit to any examination, because of the quality education you are receiving, you'll obviously pass your examination.
Are you saying that the scholarships were based on merit?
On merit, exactly.
Okay, please tell us what happened after you were admitted to Hermitage.
I was I entered Hermitage in 1963. And I was there for almost 6 years. But I think at the dawn of our entrance to Hermitage, I was well informed that our honorable chairperson, Dr. Cisse, were the accolades of Hermitage at the time. So when they just passed away,
Abego padi?
When they passed away from leaving school, when they left Armitage,
Britel karango ke foya bang I botaje.
there was a time we also came in.
Utembolo ntelnata dunje.
So I had a mix of names.
Bitung amunda tolle dunta nyoto nu wotumo.
You have Lamin Jammeh A, you have Lamin Jammeh B as well.
Katu Lamin Jammeh A bijele and Lamin Jammeh B.
That's the way I was able to find out that the Honorable Chairman was once also how do you call it, a student of Armitage.
Dalilo le yake nata lonko Honorable Chairman Sirantio member Jan Chairman afanantambita ning Armitage School karambungulela.
But nonetheless, after leaving Armitage in 1969,
Baro nyawnya ndimbirinjita Armitage School 1969 sangokono.
I pursued other, how do you call it, job employment opportunities.
Ngadu kulu nyining.
And I was able to start job with what you call registration officer for voters.
Otumo nata do ko soto dinkirato e kanyin carte fayran kaytolu da dame ka for voter registration cards.
By then you have the British man called Dudley.
Otumo tubabo bije member ta England banko kange ka fay Dudley.
He was then the electoral officer.
Atelem electoral officer ti wala member ta carte fay do ko wala adu bunda nyi na nyaton ko.
And Nyakas Jammeh of Bakau was also one of the assistants.
Andu Nyakasi Jammeh member num Bakau otumo atele simbe tubabo kan.
So after, in fact, all the employments I took at the time were all on temporal basis. So I later joined Central Statistics Division.
Central Statistics Division.
And I was employed as a field surveyor.
Inatanta kanke field surveyor ti meni alonko wolle kata do kol ning sumandirol ni yirkarol la kenol kono bantala.
Commonly known as agricultural sample survey.
Yo todo bala ka fome agricultural sample survey.
So I was in that department for at least 2 years.
Mbe do ko bunda la fo sanjifula.
Then later I sought another employment with Directorate of Overseas Surveys.
Nata do ko nyene bunda do fanana Directorate of Overseas Surveys wala bunda men ya lonko e kaw jube role ni o yirkarolu ke dinkiral to bantala.
That is the what you call the mapping series, the map revision of the Gambia.
Wala Gambia lanya banku keno lanya asafenya wo do ko tilinta wolela.
But that was also temporal.
Odum fana amanke do kuti me yalonka fofawa munta wuche do kolem.
After 1 year,
Bringa sanji kilinke oto.
then I joined Community Development Department.
Nata dun do ku bunda la men kata jama yiruwandi do ku bundati ka fudame community development.
Employed as Community Development Assistant.
Yentaje Community Development Assistant walem yiruwandi do ku bunda la do kula.
And rose to the rank of Senior Community Development Assistant.
Ntata han fonketa palaso to ka fudame Senior Community Development Assistant.
And within the period,
Wo wiche okono
I was given chance to go and further my education.
wo wiche okono inata silo elenye prungata londi la fa karangola.
That is at the dawn of the opening of the Gambia Technical Institute, Gambia Technical Training Institute.
Wo tembolem Gambia la meche karang bumba daele tay ka fudam ye Gambia Technical Training Institute.
This was in 1983.
Wo keta 1983 sangole kono.
And I happened to be elected as the Students' Union President.
Ina tante tombon kanke talibol la kafu president oti.
Did you win a scholarship for that?
No, it was a departmental, how do you call it, training.
Sul kaya fo scholarship le soto to fanambang sedo ko hani amunta do ku bundale ya wo dia la pra ita londi la karangola ji.
And who paid for it?
Jumale ya jo.
Government paid for it.
Man sakundale ya jo.
Because at the time,
At wo tembo
you have more government civil servants
man sakunda do kula lu men siate kono.
more than the students
Wala siate hani talibol tinu.
from educational institutions.
Men ya lon koy botal londi karambundalu la.
And it happened that I was also awarded the designer of the logo of Gambia Technical Training Institute.
Ando inata nyin do ko din tele fananna Gambia Technical Training Institute ila tamansero inataw do ko din telefona na puru ibe kari sute la tamansero menna telefona yo do ko.
At the end of my assignment, or at the end of my course in Gambia Technical Training Institute,
nakarango bandula Gambia Technical Training Institute,
we sat to the final examination, that is external examination, known as City and Guilds of London.
Nganna londi kontibo labonke ka fo me City and Guilds of London.
And then after obtaining that,
Bring okay.
I went back to the department to work, continue my work.
Muruta do ko bunda nyana purunga tenten na do ko wala.
Can you tell us what qualification you obtained at the City and Guilds?
Ila yo karango menkeje ila yemu makama le sotoje.
It is National Vocational Training.
Walem National Vocational Training, walem banko kam meche karan do ko.
In Applied Science.
Kabiring londo me ya lonka sike luka londiti mosi men tamandi.
Applied Mathematics.
Ani sifaro londo mo nyanta tamala menna.
Building Construction.
Ani bullo fana londo.
And how do you call it? Design.
Ani kuolu lanya idadanya nyanta lola nyami.
And I assume that was to build your capacity in the position that you were holding in government.
Yes, exactly. Because at the end of the course, when I returned to my department, I was appointed, field assistant engineer.
Assistant engineer.
And that was essentially a promotion.
That was the essence of my promotion. That is to assist the engineer, then called Keri Marena.
And wolem kamakoiro di engineer la me yalon ko woluka kulu lanya dada e kafama Keri Marena.
In the management of works, of community development works, projects.
Do kulu sambanya memu do ku ketaluti e do ku bundala utumo.
So later in 1985,
Sangokono,
that's the time I obtained Commonwealth Fund for Technical Cooperation Scholarship.
Nata karansilo soto kafame Commonwealth Fund for Technical Scholarship. Bolem kata karangola Commonwealth bunda la nafulu bunda emen dépense.
To study for HND.
Pour kata fenkaran kafame HND.
In building technology.
Bullo londo la karola.
And this was a course on probation of about 1.5 years.
And wakarango watu tatal hanfo sanjikilin ninto.
Known as HND.
Ikafole nung HND.
So after.
Can you tell us what HND means?
Council kaya HND koto muneti.
Higher National Diploma.
Higher National Diploma. Wolem diploma me ya lonko akoto tata kata santo.
So later, after completing that, I came back. Then I continued with work with the Community Development Department.
Community Development.
How long did you spend at the Community Development Department?
Community Development.
About 12 years. So later I had the same, another scholarship again. To do the, what you call, Professional Masters Project Management.
Kana Professional Masters Project Management, wolem nyaton kaya, wala kunton kaya, do ko parendinya ninga do asambanya, do ko bunda na karola.
This was a course assigned.
Nyimu karanguleti me ya lonko ya parendi.
That's applied science.
Pro luka londo do ko na karola be sambala abekela nyaming.
And advanced training.
Anding karang me ya lonko aketa karang kototari ngoti.
For professionals.
Puru lona balu do ko na karola.
In the larger scale industrial construction management.
Puru do ko me ya lonko wolem loro kono fanungu do ko yirwando bundala karoti.
When did you begin that course?
Yo karango da muta wati jumali.
1989.
1989 sangokono.
And how long was it?
It's a 1-year program.
Sanji kilim program
A postgraduate program.
Postgraduate wolem ni tata foye yirko soton londo la karola inata karamol ni lafa.
at the Asian Institute of Technology in Thailand.
Omu Asia la dinkraleti membe Thailand banko kango fanamu karambun baleti ji.
The course entails what you call country planning.
Karamu nyin kono nyinda bije le banko kam fere lando.
Where you are trained
Damenge ke karandi.
What you call urban and rural transformation.
Dame ke karandi kula memu sidulalu kabrin tendala fosantoto I nyanta falina nyami yirwala kuwa kama.
And the transformation of what you call regenerational projects.
Ani falimulu menu nyanta kela doko la karola menu sike sayin kan doko luti yirwala karola.
This includes
Nyin dabe wakonole
changing from a hamlet
ka dula falin kabo sate ndingoto
to become a village,
ka jeke sate yirwari ngoti.
to transform a village into become a town,
Sate ndingo fana yelemande kanake sate bati.
to transform the town to become a city.
Ani wo sate ba fana kanake jama sate bati tubabu kamoto kafame city.
But then it entails a lot of planning,
Bari wokono fere landi jamale bije.
because you have to study the map of the area,
Katu follow dinkira nying o doko be kala min foyeje lanya karang anunuringo kaito bala.
where it is necessary,
Ning anyanta damento,
where you have congestion.
nin detobe damento.
How will you be able to develop that congestion to become a bit loose, tight?
Ibe o dinkira do kula nyadi le pour ka o deto bondi je kaje fanundi.
How will you be able to build in water?
Anin fanan ibe lo rokela ji dinkira luto nyadi le.
How will you be able to initiate tunnels?
Ibe bitung dinkolu datila nyadi le men mu taran dinkolti duma.
How will we be able to construct flyovers, that is road on top of roads?
Wala mi be silolu do kula nyadi le silolu men kalo nyokan santo.
And how can you develop the whole country
Anin fana ibe banko fango mume be yirwandi no la nyadi le.
to become a city-state?
Puruje be na ke sate kilim bankoti.
So this is actually what the course entails.
Itu wakarango dalilo muwaleti.
And Mr. Jammeh, I assume this really helped you in your career later on at the Birkama Area Council.
Bitu Mr. Jammeh nga mera nata ke yamako iroti bake ila du ko kono wato me be Birkama Area Council.
Yes.
Yes, ha.
If we can just quickly go through what led to your appointment at the Birkama Area Council and how you actually were appointed, at what level, and how you went through the ranks.
Bitu sa ni sa suti andi drong mune nata ke hanfo ina tete ta Birkama Area Council itata je do kola animbiri adamu ta je kolu bulata nyono manyame impalasi lafalo hanfo itata tembe damento.
Actually, I was employed in 1999 as a development officer at Birkama Area Council.
Birkama Area Council 1999 lom yenta do kola je ko ntemu yirwa la sabatindi la do koleti.
So this actually the courses that I undertook
Bitunyi nakarangulu menu ngeke do ko nyi nakarola
helped me to become a development officer.
waya makwe bakele nata ke moti menketa yirwa sabatindi la do koti.
So you were qualified for that position at the time?
Council kaya amunta otembo yo makamo sotole londo la karola.
Yes.
Ha.
Then later, I rose to the rank of Chief Executive Officer.
Bitu wokola lom nata na palasi lafa soto hani fonketa Chief Executive Officer ti wolem do kulalu ila nyaton ko je.
What other positions did you hold in between?
Ye palas jumanyol le mara janni be futalo palas kunton koto.
As a development officer, I was dealing entirely with what you call international communities, especially EU.
Nimu yirwa do kula sabatindilati inim bankute ma bunda le kadu koke bunda lu meno ko EU
coordinating what you call the project infrastructural development of the council.
Aning do kolu nyinke kumbeng me ya ke council la do kolu Kenya yirwandi do kolu la karola council bunda la je kawlu kumbeng.
So it was later that my predecessor.
amunta bitu obe kola ntenata say menna palaso to je.
They were dismissed
Nate bondido kola.
due to poll commission.
Juto?
Poll commission inquiry.
Amunta kisikisiro le keta poll commission wala o kisikisiro wala yakendi yolu bondido kola.
Which predecessor are you referring to?
Ite sayta menna palaso to jumale moti.
The late Balamusa Cham.
Ala Balamusa Cham.
And what position did he hold?
Atabe palas jumal to nung.
He was then the former chief executive officer.
Amunda telemu nung do kulala kunton koti je chief executive officer.
And when were you appointed as CEO?
Wati jumlalem ye ta keke o CEO palaso to.
I was confirmed as a CEO on 19th July 2005.
2005 san kono July karotil tan nin konon tolom yo palaso londinye.
And you had started at the Birkama Area Council as a development officer in 1999.
Yes. 1999 lom ya damuta Birkama Area Council ko itemo yirwa sabatindila do quality ka fama development officer.
Yes.
So you had been with the council for about 6 years before your appointment.
Amonta o yatare sanji woro do ku council to je janni be nyi nyaton kaya palaso dilela.
Yes.
So you came to office after your predecessor was dismissed as a result of the findings of the poll commission.
Amonta etenata na o palaso to membota je saita la palaso to birim poll commission ya kisikisiro ke na takulu menu banke wole yo sabu.
Yes.
Do you know what the poll commission was doing and what its findings were?
Foya lo ne utumo poll commission me mune kekan aning inata mun kulle banke.
To my knowledge, actually, I think poll commission was entirely for making inquiries or investigations on what you call property assessment of civil servants and other peoples who are outside the, how do you call it, who are on private enterprise. But as for the council, actually, my predecessor, they were transferred what you call the sand mining management.
Otumo poll commission la doku tilinta menna wolem ka kisikisiro ke molu mansakunda doku lalu ila soto fenglu ila na fulolu pour kawlu yirika yo bari bitum ntela o mo meya lonko ngamen na place ta otumo nyim fanana tataraje pour ka banko membi banku keno nyin kenyo me ya lonko ka sinka samba molu ka bullo lukala wo fanana tanatara tela kolu kono.
This was transferred from the President's office through Geology Department to Council for resource management of sand mining.
Wotumo adoko be President la office leto bari doku bunda me ka fay Geology Department men ya lonko etelaka dinkira lulanya la ko no masata wolle nata wo doku bunda nyin saundi ka nati Birkama Area Council kadi wala priyata mandi.
This actually featured and affected the poll inquiry the officers concerned.
Nyine nata finti bitum poll commission la kisikisiro kono nyindo kulalu la karola hanufu anatake kuti meya lonko anata ku sababu wodo kulalu ma.
Mr. Jammeh, just so that we are clear, the poll commission, as you said, was just evaluating the assets of public officers.
Mr. Jammeh ngin senandi wolube do kulal la soto fengulu anila nafulo le yirka kanu.
During their investigations into the Birkama Area Council, in particular your predecessor,
biribe kisikisiro ke kam Birkama Area Council katabula mola menketa moti ite menna palaso taji.
Yes.
Can you just guide us more clearly as to what aspects of investigation that were being done on him in particular or in relation to the Birkama Area Council?
Isa senendi nyonyi mun kisikisir façon ibole tamandi kannu atela koluto mem fanan denta kolula do ko Kenya Birkama Area Council la karola otembo.
Well, actually, in the case of sand mining,
bari bitum bang Kenya bio fanan na karola.
The revenue income from sand mining
soto bulo menka soto Kenya bio nin Kenya wafo la karola
were supposed to be entered in the ledger.
Fem soto ntaje anyanta safela buko to le membije ka fome ye ledger.
Because the ledger provides information on how to prepare your budgeting for the fiscal year.
Katu o ledger o buko wala fana mukuti ka parendirolu bondi membala ni be do ku bunda la sango malankunna fulo kumbenna.
Mr. Jammeh, so all revenue received by the Birkama Area Council was to be entered into that ledger?
Mr. Jammeh amunta femfen sotonta banku kenyo wafola karola benyanta sfaila ubukoleto.
Yes.
Ha.
Please proceed.
Enteng.
So following that, to my knowledge,
Bitun kabula onoma ntela londo la karola.
that entries,
Wo saferolu.
I don't know whether they were entered correctly or they were not entered correctly.
Bitun ma faham foye safe anyama le bang fo safero nyinto amanna ke anyama bang wo manko imma.
At the time,
Wo tembo.
when I realized that all the budgeting that has been conducted by the Chief Executive Officer and the Finance Director at the time,
Bitun wo tembo nataje ko malankunna fulo membe kafuta nyoma Chief Executive Officer la du ko to len kunton ko la du ko ani memmarta na fulo tamando la du ko bunda la otumo
were never mentioned in the budgeting session.
imanna wulu lakuma fo malankunna fulo bengo dinkira nyinto.
Who was the finance director at the time?
Jumale marta na fulo la otumo
Fafa Kuyate.
ka fayne fafa kuyate.
So as a matter of fact,
Bitun ko kolu nata la nyamin
since it does not reflect in the budgeting system,
wairi amam finti ka lankena ma wo malankunna fulo kunyaluto.
and there were also what you call ghost projects.
Andung do ku dolu fanalu sotonta itole fotabari mantara keri.
Before we go to the ghost projects, let us just tidy up on the issue of the sand mining, the revenue that was received.
Ya ninga futa wo do kuluma mennu fotabari mantara kering. Bitung jubero ke kenyo men wafita wala kuola ta nyame.
You have said that it was not reflected in the budget.
In the budget.
Ya fuko amam finti malankunna fulo nyim banke oto.
So as far as the Birkama Area Council was concerned officially, there was no sand mining project that they were associated with, or there was no revenue collected as regarding sand mining on the books.
Amunda ubukolu kenyo men wafita men nyanta safela nung ila malankunna fulo kumbendulato amanna finti je amunta bitu wonata ke kuti me ya lonko amamfo amanna finti fanan ila malankunna fulo kumben dinkirato.
That's correct.
Walem.
However, in reality, revenue was being collected from sand mining.
Randunga ketanya nyandi wayatara na fulo be dun kannan ne membe soto kan kenya wafo la karola.
And also the clerk
Nin clerko saferla membeji
who was assigned,
yedu ko di menna
that is every trip of sand collected
ko kenyola trip wo trip ala duni wo duni nanata motolu kamen nati
by the entrance and the exit,
ning abedunna bunda la nyanta dunna dame anim motolu ka finti dame
it is receipted.
e ke nyanta risito le dila wolem kayto le nyanta dila ka sedea ko kenyo duntale.
But it was also later discovered
Bari na taja fanan ko kolu kola wo fanan
some of those receipt books
receipt bukolu men ya lon ko nyanta wolle tamandila je
were not actually legitimate.
woldolu manna ke kutilindinti manna ke receipt bukolu manna ke buku sobe wolti.
Because the books were supposed to be printed by the Gambia Printing Authority.
Katu mansa kunda la buku dada bunda le nyanta receipt bukolu dada la bari itatatara ko wo buko dolu man dada woto.
So you find that all revenues entered in that in those receipt books
It bitu itatatara ko na kodo membe dunta wo receipt bukolu to
would never surface in the ledger.
wol nena man safe wo bukoto inyanta safe la buku ba mento memu council la bukoti.
Can you tell us who collected the revenue?
Afanya njumale ka na fulo ka funyo manu ngotumo
Papa Tamba
ka fayne Papa Tamba
was then revenue collector assigned.
atela mudo kulati ye wo do ko di men na menyanta wo do ko kala ka wo na fulo kensu.
He was also supposed to be paid a commission of 10%.
andung inyanta ikate jo fanan commission wala me ya lon ko keme o keme sidula tang inyanta te fanan jola wolale.
Before we go there, Mr. Jammeh, let's just take it in chronological order.
Nimbita woto kolu bulata nyono ma nyamin killing simfa ngata o nyabang.
Once he got the revenue together, what was he supposed to do to it according to your procedures?
Nate yo na fulo kensung aduntabulo anyanta tamandila nyadile.
Well, he's supposed to come and pay to the council.
Anyanta na la kajo council le.
Sorry, he's supposed to pay to the bank.
Anyanta tala jola bank le al haketu.
That is what the accounting procedures called for.
Exactly.
Amunta konto nyin sambanya yole kaning siedo koha.
And do you know why this was the case? That he should pay directly to the bank and not to the Birkame Area Council or any other individual?
Council ka ya long fula ya long ne munan na nyanta tala katajo bank dina kanati kajo Birkama Area Council wala kajo mansakunda la bunda dola fo kasamba bank.
Well, that was a premeditated plan.
Bituwa mu fere sitirim bandingo letinu.
No, I meant in relation to paying to the bank. What was the reason behind that?
Council kai pur katajo bank mune yo dalilo sabu mlafta wale lon nanu.
Because the collection is normally huge.
Katu sedo ko kodo menka kensunje asia batale wotumo.
That is the reason why he's supposed to pay to the bank.
O dalilo le ya sabu anyanta kodo nyin sambala bank le katajoje.
But if it is waived from payment to the bank to the treasury, that's the office,
bari bitu ninga anata ke ko amantaje fo treasury wala mnaful marabunda nyin
it will be tampered.
Boto sobobe kala sobitanyina la ko kodo nyin bulobe malala le.
So there was a danger of the funds being tampered with if it was not paid to the bank but paid to the office.
Yeah, exactly.
Munta soboke tanyina la ko na manjo bank wala faya jo office be silanding wala la pour bulolu be malala le.
So tell us whether this procedure was actually followed, where the revenues being paid to the bank.
Sain council ka afanye fo mo sotondale wala ya ko no masata le ka koy bang fo tonya ko do be jo kam bank le kanya ntakele nyami.
Actually, during those time the procedure was not followed.
Wotembo de imanwo silo noma de imano masata.
So what happened?
I suspected.
Council ka muneketa.
I suspected because the geology unit was under the president's office.
Akaso beta utumo geology unit menu marta banku kunyala ibe president wala office wala koto utumo.
I remember, I think there was a, what you call an MOU.
Hakilo ya mutani manyina kubije ka fome MOU.
If the council collects, let's say 100,000.
Nin council e kodo kensu meye wuli kemesi.
At least 50,000 should be paid to geology unit.
Wuli talulo nyantata la geology unit office oleto.
And then council will also use the other 50,000.
Adun council fanambe muna fanna dalasi wuli talulu fulanja wanyina.
Yes.
Akata wanya wale lota wale nyanta kela.
Mr. Jammeh, sorry, go ahead. I just wanted to remind you of my question. I don't know if you're getting there or not. Because the question was who these monies were being paid to or what happened to them since they were not being paid to the bank.
Sain lefta menyin kala num kodo nyin sila itel kana di jumale la wairi otumo nyanta jola bank nyamin ibuka ke onya.
The money is normally usually paid to the finance director of Afakuyate.
Jama ka kodo nyin samba kadi na fulo mara doku bunda na fulo mara doku lalela ikafole finance director Fafakuyate.
And can you tell us if that was, you've already said it was supposed to be paid to the bank. So why was it being paid to Fafa Kuyate, the finance director, instead?
Kodo menyanta jola num bank. Muna nasilang ikanao jo finance director ya Fafa Kuyate.
I said this was a premeditated plan.
Kaya funu nyaming. Ni mufere sitiringo leti da manglu tema.
And what was the premeditated plan?
O fe rodu mumuneti la o fere sitiringo. Sedo.
Like I said, it was a premeditated plan.
Konga funu nyaming ko fere sitiringo lom.
Because the procedure was not followed.
Akatu moman taraje memba ko no masata kanun ka jube membe kekang.
The president's office was benefiting.
President la office be tineo soto kanje.
Even though it has been transferred to council.
Hanna ya taraw ya saundi kadi council la.
That is what exactly I suspected.
Nte sobita num wolela.
That is what actually happened.
Andung akola nataje ko wole keta.
Can you tell us how the president's office was benefiting?
Afanya president la office ka tinew soto je nyaadile.
Okay, I'll give you one adage. That is, you cannot give me the head and get hold of the tail.
Mbe sando foleye. Ita kumudila la ifango yeminin fenyola.
It was transferred to council.
Ya soundi kadi council la.
Council should at least benefit from the whole income of of that sand mining.
Council nyanta tine soto na wo kenye wafo fango kumumeo konole.
To plow back development projects.
Puru asimuru yirwa do ko ka dépense wolu kunna.
Of its jurisdiction.
Menu be council nyin koto wotumo.
But this was not the case.
Bari amantara tama kanwonya.
So you find that corruption is in a form of what you call quid pro quo.
Bitung isitaje wotuma bekeka nyamin nakaro betama kan nyamin wolem itelia la nyamin ila hammoto anila lafin nanyato.
I'll give you my left hand.
Nsimara dila.
You might have to give me your left hand, your right hand.
Itafana ye buluba adina.
As far as you know, how was the president's office benefiting?
Itela londo to president la office odum fana mbetine osoto kanje nyadile.
Well, actually, in those days, I know for sure that corruption was endemic in this country.
Bitun tela londo to wotilo lukono. Nakaro ye sulo dun na nyimbanko kan wotumo.
Because once, like I said, it was transferred to council. But why should we pay another percentage to the president's office?
Can you tell us what percentage was being paid to the president's office?
45%.
Yeah. 45% of the entire revenue of sand mining was being paid to the president's office.
Yes, that is the geology department.
Kodo yirko menka soto kemewo kemesidula tanani lulu bejo kam president la office to wotumo.
It was going to the geology department.
Andunga katambido ku bunda menna wotumo e kafujele geology department.
Yes.
Which was under the office of the president.
Oh, exactly.
Me ya lon ko do ku bunda famo president la office le koto.
And as far as the revenue collector was concerned, did he do anything or did he reveal any information that supported your claim that this was a premeditated plan to defraud the system?
Bidung na fulu kensu na nying. Fodung anatanyi banke le kaitandi ko. Fere sitiringo lebe kerinde purka nakaro tamandi nying kodo la karola menka kensunteng.
Yeah, in fact, he acted as a whistleblower.
Woto atele na atadu kemoti memfanga yo wanyaro sababu.
That his percentage has not been paid.
Ko inyanta menjola ateya imaojo.
How much was his percentage?
Atela yirko mujalleti.
1%.
Kemeo kemesidula tang.
And what was that percentage for?
Andu yirko menyanta jola ateya umo prumuneti.
Because it is a fresh assignment to council.
Katu nyimudo ku kutaleti mendita council la.
Please go ahead.
I thought Mr. Fall was about to.
No, it's okay. We will always be conferring, so just continue. Don't pay attention to us.
He claimed that his percentage was not paid. And that percentage is in a form of an MOU.
Andu ate nyanta yiriko menjola atea imawojo adu nyimbe kambe ngor nyinne kono biri nyimbe datila ye kambe ngo melondi.
Because he was collecting a huge sum of money every day.
And
can you tell us which parties were involved in this scam?
It was the executive, that is the chief executive officer and the former director of finance.
Mofulo membije wolem do ku bunda kundon ko chief executive officer ani memmarta na fulo kunyala je director of finance.
In concert with the president's office, that's geology unit.
In president office la bunda meng ikafa geology unit wol fanalu dabi jele.
The monies that were being paid directly to the president's office, did you obtain any receipts for that?
Kodolu men ka jo president la office to fali kaito soto le men yo cede recito.
Actually, I was then a development officer.
Wotembo dente mu development officiality.
So I had no idea about that.
Malo wakatama nu nyameng.
Because of the whistleblower
Gatu menata wanyaroke.
was not paid,
Wari matela yiriko jo.
it was through my own investigation.
Andu tumuntela kisikisiro mfansum kisikisiro menketa.
I know how government, how the money was spent between geology unit, that's the president's office, and the Brikama Area Council.
Nata long kodo nyinkala nyameng ka depense nyameng geology unit and Brikama Area Council tema.
Just to give us an idea on how big this financial scam was, can you tell us the amount of revenue that was collected on a yearly basis from sand mining?
Purumolisi sobi, nying na fulo siata nyame meya lonko, nying nakaro betama kan waleto, menketa nying Kenya wafo Kenyati. Femfo nyenje mensike yirikoti mala nangamo, mensa itandi kodo jelle faum.
I can recall the first annual income was about 4.5 million.
Amunta soto da follow hakilo memuta umu dalasi million nani anin talante moleti.
Exactly.
And this scam was going on for how many years?
Alunyin tapale abeke kan sanji jelu.
It's only for 2 years.
Sanji fulalem.
Yeah.
And these items were never budgeted for. That's the sand mining items.
No.
Andu banku kenyo me wafita wanya ibitung imanna ulu yirka freng.
Was the expenditure actually reported?
Fodung menka depense nato fanang bankele bang.
No.
Ani.
It was never disclosed.
Inena mai abanke, inena mai tandi.
So in terms of those who were involved in this scam, this money basically went into their pockets.
Amunta mennu be nyin tapale ya tamandi kan nyin kodo tata wala jifole kono.
Exactly.
Sedo ko ha.
Was there any official report that actually captured this scam?
Fodum kibarna ta fintile kabuman sala karola meye nyin tapale ya wanyari.
It didn't feature on the side of government, but it featured in my own investigation.
Amam finti man sakunda la karola de barinta fansum kisikisiro biringa ke anata finti wo
Which
kibarola.
if you go through what you call the audit report,
Me yalon ko niye kontibo men ketaje niya kibaro nyin jube.
Do you have a copy of it there?
Wo fa kayto be bulle bang.
Would you like me to give you this copy?
yes.
Yo kayto membe kan.
Mr. Usher, can you kindly help us? Just identify the audit report.
Itong kontibo kibaro be dame wo itandi dro.
Yes.
Is that the audit report?
Felenti wolam kibaro.
Thank you very much. And this audit report highlights the financial fraud that was
Exactly.
going on at the time at Birkama Area Council.
Exactly.
Itong kontibo kibaro le itandiro ke wo
Thank you very
kuruya la membe tamakanu Brikama Area Council.
The
Mr.
total
Chairman.
I think at the total of about $25,685 is.
Ngamera bita dalasi million muang
Figure is
anil lulu dalasi wulikeme woro aning talulu nyong.
Don't say any.
Tanseni lulu, sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We would like to put the audit report dated the 16th day of January 2006 into the record. I'll give the usher to show the commissioners. Thank you. Mr. Chairman, the exhibit number is 168. Thank you. Mr. Jammeh, perhaps we can continue whilst the commissioners look at the report.
Mr. Jammeh, insitente no. Satara commissioner be kibaro nyinjube kan.
Mr. Jammeh, I know that you mentioned other financial scams that were going on at the Birkama Area Council involving ghost projects. Unfortunately, we won't have the time to go into all of that. I would just really like to shuttle you into your unlawful termination so that we can deal with the human rights violations that you suffered properly, because those are the most important things right now before the Commission.
Mr. Jammeh, ya foko bitun do ko lolu sotonta mennu fota bari mantara kering mennu fanal beta pale ya karola Brikama Area Council je. Bari mawato soto pour kadungulu be kono bitun silam be tentenna le dorongata ajube men nata ke sababote hanfo ila do ko nata kumfaje hanfo bitun hadamaya janta tinyalu menu nata laikang nsibulawul no ma hanfo ngawlu londi.
Tell us the period of your employment as Chief Executive Officer before you were terminated?
Afonye yewu chejele ke do ko la Chief Executive Officer palaso to janni be ila do ko londila.
Well, actually, I was confirmed to that position in 2005,
Yo palaso
19th July.
July karotil tanin kono to 2005.
And my everyday responsibilities
Na luolundin do ko
is to supervise, monitor, and coordinate the activities of the departments
wala luolundin nyanta korosiro ning do yamaru tamandila do ko nyin samba nyala karola.
and to ensure accountability, transparency,
Anin kajako konto ye saha do ko ni lankene mafanang.
and management in the delivery of the council services.
Anin maralo ye saha kansul nyin na do ko la karola.
And as to be a custodian of all documents and records,
Andum fanang kaitolu men benyan tatamala je I benyan tadunan telebulokon.
and to ensure that the day-to-day performance of the executive and administrative functions
Ani kajako
are kept to implement the services
do ko luolunding do ko lu menu nyanta tamala wo fannalu la nyaton ka karolu bela ado ko lu anin kaitolu be saha ye lo ko do ko nyanta tamala menna nyamen ay lo wonya.
This was why my responsibility, what I should get actually,
Wala ya kendi ntela do ko nyanta men tamandi la membe laring ndaba kunkungu kan.
I inherited the audit report.
O dalilo le ya sabu ila nyin kontibo kibaro nata woketa.
So it was clear that the financial mismanagement that was going on was before you were appointed to the position.
Exactly.
Tunga seneta ko wonna karoni wo tapale ya beke kantu momena wayatara imahani teta do ko la follow sedo ko ha.
During your tenure, did you have any opportunity to report on the financial mismanagement of the Birkama Area Council, and to whom?
Andu wato me be palaso tamandi kan fenyin silo sotole kanyin kibaro banke kadi bundala ka foko nyinyon ku kurungul lebetama kambri kama area council ning aketafana ya kibaro di jumalela.
Indeed, I wrote to that effect.
Tonya ngasafero kele wo kama
To the executive.
ngaki bitun kunton ka bundala.
Which executive are you referring
That's the
to?
parent body of councils.
Wala do ku bunda ba councilolu bebe bunda men koto.
That's the Ministry of Lands, Local Government and Lands.
Wala minister bunda men marta masakundare ngul limbanku kenolula.
With copies to the president,
Ngake kaiti jamaleti ngado ki president wala office oto.
Inspector General of Police,
Ngado ki police la kuntonko ya Inspector General,
Ombudsman, the Director General of NIA.
Director General member NIA.
Can you remember when you wrote the letter?
Foi hakilo sibulale yo letro safe wato men.
Actually, the first letter was written in January.
Letter follow nga safe January le kono.
Of which year?
Sanjuma
2005.
2005.
And just tell us briefly the contents of the letter before we admit it into the record.
Kuma sutun kamma durong yemen safe o letter to afonye janning mba akela sede kaitoti.
Actually, the contents of the first letter and the second rejoinder, they are the same contents, which was written in 2007.
Letter follow men nga safe aninata membula ndia noma munta kuma kan kilingo le ndorong ka bambandi men safe tan 2007.
Okay.
Just to ensure and to inform the executive that I inherited an audit report and that the executive should assist to ensure that the queries in the audit report
amunta kalamiro lumenu bewo kontibo kaito nyin kono
are well accounted for.
Isibe bula ke no masata puriye konto londi konto esaha.
But apart from the audit report, did you report on any other financial mismanagement in the council prior to that?
Between wo kontibo kibaro kola fo ye kuruya do fanang bankele council la karola wo tembo membe ke kanun sako
especially when you were a development officer in the council.
Sako wato men ibe yirwa do ko kunna development officer palaso to council bundala je.
Yes, I did.
Ha ngakele.
Can you tell us about that?
Fem fanyang woto bang.
Yes. That first report was written to the former Director General of NIA, then Abdoulaye Kujabi.
No kibar follow nga safe men ka ki me wala keta men ne keta Director General ti NIA ka fay Abdoulaye Kujabi.
When was this? What year?
Council ka Sanjuma.
This was in 2001.
2001 sa kono le woketa.
By then, just returned from UK.
Otembo mbotana ndrong United Kingdom.
Doing my, certificate course in dispensing product system.
Otumo nganna certificate karango ke do ko nyin lando ning atamando Kenya la karola.
From the University of Central England.
Kabo University to Ekafadame University of Central England.
That I found so many irregularities.
Ngatara kujenkerin jamalu beta makang.
Which concern ghost projects.
Me yalon ko do kolu before kang menu mantara caring.
Payments were done by corporate bodies like hotels and civil aviation.
Do ku bunda lu menu ko hotelol ning civil aviation wala kuntila do ku bunda wala joro ke kanu wotumo.
And they were never entered.
Andu ko do lu menu kajo ibukana safe.
Neither receipted.
Andu receipt buka di fanan ko nyin do ku bunda kare nyin ko do lu jo.
And I had no response.
Andu mbuka jabir fanan soto akwoto.
Can you tell us why you chose to report this particular matter to the NIA rather than to the police or perhaps your parent body, which was the Ministry of Local Government and Lands?
Munan na yin tombon pour ka kibaro di NIA la andu isa kibaro di no ni police la le wala do ku bunda fon la kunton ko bunda nying ibe do ku bunda men kono ila nyaton kol.
Like I mentioned before, these were all copies to both to the President, the NIA, the Inspector General of Police, you know.
Kunga funu nyame, biringa letro nyin safe. Nga ki bunda jamale to NIA, Inspector General of Police, kata do ku bunda nyim fonga la kunton ka bunda, nga kaito lu kiwolu betole.
So, but I had no response.
Bari manja biru soto kabuhani karakilinna.
Because I was responsible for the implementation of projects.
And
these were never mentioned during our budgeting sessions.
I was just interested as to why you would choose to report this matter to the NIA in particular. Just taking into consideration their particular jurisdiction.
Well, I have to do something which, you know, I feel I am safe and comfortable to do the job in the right way.
Mbe ngake nyine kama puru satara ntankata adun satara nsitara nyame ya lonko nsina duko keno mente kela nyabata dati.
Because at the time the NIA they were more powerful than the police.
Katu tembo NIA telle sembo wartani police oldi.
But did you believe that they were an appropriate forum for you to report such a matter?
But for dun ila tala ko jemu bunda nyimale tite sikibaro sambano menye.
I said they were only copied.
Na foko ngakaito le kiye drong.
The rest were all to Inspector General of Police and on.
Ngado ki police la kundon ko e president's office anindo ku bunda ko tangulu men yalon ko e benko nika futa nyoma.
The letter was addressed to the president's office.
Letter was safeta kata president la office oto.
In fact, to the head of state himself.
Banku nyaton ko fangoya.
You are looking at the rejoinder.
That is the 2007 letter.
That's what I'm saying. You asked me when I was a development officer. Different from the one I'm...
development officer.
Do you have a copy of that letter? You did tell us the contents were the same.
Yes, the contents were the same. Actually, I don't possess that...
You don't have a copy of that particular letter in 2007?
No, 2001.
2001, sorry.
2001 letter on the Wotembulu.
Okay, so the contents were the same. What about the addressee? Were they the same?
Kuma kangul mukilineti bara akita men yo full fana mukilineti bang.
Sorry, in fact, I was cautioned.
Okay, tu amera yen dandalale nu.
2001.
2001.
By then, E.K. Sar was the commissioner of West Coast Region.
Utumo E.K. Sar lom commissioner ti West Coast Region Brikama Tundo kan.
So he summoned me to a meeting
Ayong kumandi bengoto.
at the boardroom,
Ila alfa kafu bengot dinkirato.
including the councillors
Aning kansilo lu fana lu bije.
of the council,
Council men be council koto utumo.
just to inform me that, Lamin, did you write this letter too?
Nyinin ka fo Lamin itele nyin letro safe bang.
To NIA office,
Kata NIA la office oto.
Are you referring to 2001?
2001.
Well, 2001.
Okay, so you wrote a letter to the NIA. I just want us to be clear about this because in your letter in 2007, Mr. Chairman, excuse me, but I will refer the letter to the commissioners later, but I just want to read a paragraph of it to him. It says that at the rank of development officer, I reported corruption practices that prevailed at the council to the then Director General, NIA, dated 27 February 2003, Mr. Kujabi.
Yes, exactly.
Instructed for the investigation to be carried out, but no report was given on the outcome of the
That's
case
correct.
up to date.
That's correct.
So you made a report to the NIA at the time.
Yes.
Utembo yo kibaro leki NIA utembo sedo ko ha.
And that is why I was asking the specific
I
question,
understand.
whether or not they were the right people for you to have reported the matter to.
Council ka odali lo ya sabu mbenyini kara fo wolle mu dinkirati kaito nyi nyanta tala damendo.
Yes, I did.
Sedo ko
Because they
ha.
were more powerful than the police at the
Ko ne
time.
aja kaito kije utembo de telle sembo warta hani police ulti.
So you made use of that power that they had rather than going through the right procedure.
Amunta bitu ilawo sembo le ya sabu ye kaito kije me ya lonko nyanta silo mentala no yotuje.
And at the time, did you know that the police were the proper people to have reported such a matter to?
Andu utembo yalo ne banko police le mu dinkirati nyanta kibaro nyi sambala dame.
That's correct.
Muto nyalde.
So you accept that that was a fault on your part?
Isonda ko wata munta woto mu filolti la karola.
I admit.
Nsonta.
Thank you very much for that admission.
Inumbara.
Let us just continue from where we stopped.
Lotanu ndami ngataje ngatente.
Mr. Chairman, actually, I would just like to tender the letter that is dated the April 16th, 2007, and it's addressed to His Excellency Dr. Alhaji Yaya A.J. Jammeh. We've just read portions of the letter to you.
What's the exhibit number?
It will be Exhibit 169. Thank you.
Request granted.
Can we just go directly into the day you were terminated? Can you remember the day?
Sa in council ka ngata sila lungoto lumme ye fonyondi do kola. Foi hakilo sa lungumutala.
Yes, 13th February 2006.
Sedo ko February karotil tang anin saba 2006.
How did it happen?
Council ka aketa nyadile.
My office is just next to the chairman's office.
Akala officer be nakirin chairman la officer le bala.
He watched through the door
Anata duntanam bundala
and informed me that Daba Marina wants us to report to NIA office as soon as possible.
ay nyum fanya ko daba mare na ko ngatan dankung NIA la officer to atariata nyamemma.
And it was nearly closing time.
Andu otumo anin wato kanyanta memu molu la ji wato te.
That was around 4.
Mumutalan nani ma fangaleti.
That we took the trip to NIA office.
Bitu osilo len tata NIA la officer to.
And we found Daba Marina there.
Nga daba mare na taraje.
He was waiting for us.
Abemba tukang.
What position did Daba Marina hold at the NIA at the time?
Wotembo daba mare na ba palas jumal to NIA.
He was the Director General.
Atelom Director General ti wotum kuntonko.
So my first question posed to him,
Nanyinin kar follow menka atela.
Mr. Marina, did you receive my petition letter?
Nkai na Mr. Marena nga safaro menke ka kalamiroke fo afuta te male bang.
And which petition letter were you referring to at this point?
The same letter that we have just copied to
Council ka sedo ka council ka be letter jumala ma sedo ka letter o men nga fenko nga
The
sa
petition letter.
ka kidulal to.
And that was the one in 2001 or 2007?
2007.
Well, 2007 letter o nyinti.
Please go ahead.
Council ka tenten.
So he confirmed affirmative,
Asonta ko to nyala letter o futata male.
but he was called by State House.
Ako bari State House le akumandi.
Local language, you call it Bumbato.
Wala
In
bumbato.
Mandinka.
Mandinga kaunto bumbato.
That he will first of all direct us to the ministry and the quadrangle.
Ko follow aben silo italan na purungata minister bundala membe quadrangle utumo.
We'll find our permanent secretary there.
Mben na permanent secretary tarlaje.
So we took a drive to the quadrangle.
Nta ata quadrangle wotembole.
It was around 5:30 at the time.
Mbe futala je tumenna tala lulu ni tala wotembo.
Who did you go with to the quadrangle?
Council kay ninju mal tata quadrangle.
We were escorted by the operations manager, Dembaso.
Ning operations manager mem marta do kulu tamando like ka fay demba so ni wala
Operations manager or director?
operations manager for director.
He was the operations manager at the time.
Wotembo da tolong operations manager ti.
Of the NIA?
NIA.
Na ela Carola.
So when we arrived,
Brim futata je
that is myself, Dembaso,
Tefamu.
and Dr. Jassy, the chairman,
demba so anin Dr. Jassy chairman.
we found Ablaimane, the permanent secretary.
Nga Ablaimane taraje permanent secretary.
So he just handed over 2 letters, one to me and the other one to my chairman.
I letter fulaledi. I kilindin na chairman la.
I opened mine. I was curious to know what is in the letter.
Nana lettero yele katum kumpata le kalom muna be lettero nyinkono.
And I found that it was termination of appointment.
Ntata tarako yenna do ko kumfale silanga munta yem bondi do ko la.
But no reasons were advanced in the
Bari
letter.
man dalila wo dalila fo yem bondi dalilo men kan.
It merely stated,
Ay nyina fo ko.
I've been directed by directives.
Munta ye kangol le
Do
di
you want me to read the letter to you?
Yes,
Or would you like to read it yourself?
No,
perhaps?
read it. So
No, it's okay. You go ahead. I think it will be better from you. Just give us the date of the letter and the heading before you go on to read its contents.
Lettero saveta long men na fonyeng anim memu lettero kumoti. Ukola isina kuma kangol futandi.
The letter comes from Department of State for Local Government and Lands, 12 Marina Parade Banjul,
Lettero botama sakundare ngul la bunda la Marina Parade
dated 13th February 2006,
February karotil tan in saba 2006 wala mo lungo nyinti.
addressed to me as the Chief Executive Officer, Birkama Area Council,
Ya monta ya safe atelom Chief Executive Officer to Birkama Area Council.
head termination of appointment.
Memu lettero kumoti amonta ye mari la do ko le ye mari bondi do ko le.
I am directed to inform you that directives have been given
Ay men safeta du ma wala nyinti ko kuma kangolu ditale ko
to terminate your appointment
pour nsi ila do ko londi jang.
as Chief Executive Officer, Birkama Area Council,
Place oto e ka fo me Chief Executive Officer Birkama Area Council.
with immediate effect.
Ka dati sign.
Please hand over
Saying itela palaso ni mfengolo si chika yedi
as appropriate
ko anyanta kela nyaming
to Mr. Balamusa Cham
isi di bala musa chamla
as the new Chief Executive Officer.
wala Chief Executive Officer kutoti
That's the content.
o dorone safeta letro nyindo
And at that point, how long had you served as Chief Executive Officer?
andu wotembo wayatara ye wati jelle ke o palaso
I was confirmed in 2005, and then 2006 I was removed.
ye na palaso londi 2005 2006 ye mbondi
How long was that?
It's about 1 year, 3 months.
ansul kay o muwi che jeleta ko sanji killing karisaba
And you were asked to hand over to Bala Musa Cham.
andu ko yela palaso ni jorangulu fengolu di bala musa chamla
Yes.
The same person that was indicted by the Paul Commission.
Exactly.
mo kilingu me yalon ko Paul Commission yewle bondi jenu
After a finding had been made that he was defrauding the Birkama Area Council of millions of dollars.
biri ya tara ko ay Birkama Area Council la nafulu jama tam yemandi tapale yakono.
It's correct.
You've also said that the President's office was benefiting from this fraud.
Ando otumo president la office of fanambe tinew soto ka wo tapale yakono.
That's correct.
Do you know where these termination letter came from, or where these directives to terminate you came from.
Fayalon nañin letro me bondi do kolata bota damin walla akuma kango bota min tole.
I asked the permanent secretary, where is this letter from?
Na permanent secretary ñinin kanyin letro bota min.
He said, it is from here.
Ako abota je fango leto.
I said, no.
Akaka ay hani.
You have been directed. Who directed you?
Akaka ite ko yete bulala le. Jumale ye bulala.
Did you understand the language you wrote to me?
Akaya foye kango men safe ya kinte na ya fahamu le ba.
He insisted to reaffirm his response, that is, yes, it comes from here.
Did
you eventually get any information to suggest where it came from?
Council kay nata kibar soton ne men sa itandi ko nying kango fango botan ndamin.
Abijel.
Sorry, Mr. Jammeh, for interrupting you. Please continue.
Mr. Jammeh,
I premise the fact of the information based on what the Bamarena said to us when we arrived at the NIA.
Bitun nga ye asobendi kumakangol la Bamarena e memfon toliye birim futata wala ofisoto.
Because he directed us to the permanent secretary.
Because atele konga na ate permanent secretary ya.
Meaning he was also directed by the Bumbato, as I said before.
Amonta woto kumo bota Bumbato le me ya lonko wale tulfanalu bulala kunga funu nyaming.
When you talk about the Bumbato, either the Secretary General or and the President.
Niko Bumbato, wale Secretary General memu do kubula be kunton koti wala Bumba Mario.
That is how I relate.
Unga kibaro nyimfutandi telmo nyale.
Yes.
So the directives were from the president's office?
Exactly.
And do you know when actually your predecessor, Bala Musa Cham, had been reinstated to this position that you were terminated from?
In council kayalone bitun ite saita men na pala soto Bala Musa Cham inatate murundi lanka saije wato men na foyo wato lonne ba.
Thank you for reminding me that position.
In fact,
what actually happened was there was a premeditated plan to remove me from the position, and to that effect, the former permanent secretary, Ablaimane, wrote a letter and I copied to my chairperson. The letter was dated on the 9th of December 2005. I write to convey the Secretary of State's approval for your reinstatement as Chief Executive Officer, Brikama Area Council.
Amonta men safeta je wala nyinti kombe safere kala pour kanyin londi ko ye murundi palaso tole kake Chief Executive Officer at Brikama Area Council
from 1st of January 2006.
Kabo January karotili follow kata 2006 sangokono.
I therefore congratulate you on your reinstatement.
Motombe konton ila sain kam muruo wo palaso
to your positive contribution
in
the implementation of the decentralization process.
Who was that letter addressed to?
This letter was addressed to Bala Musa Cham.
And this can you just enlighten us as to the dates?
Yeah.
When were you terminated?
Like I said before, this was written before my termination.
Exactly.
This was the first attempt on his own. That's the permanent secretary. Right? The second plan was to to let us move to NIA. Hence, this other plan failed. So this was the first plan.
But officially, he had been already reinstated into that position even before you were terminated.
This is what I'm saying.
Even though the position was not available at the time.
This was the failed plan. Because obviously, I was the chief executive. Not to my knowledge. If it was to become to my knowledge, on the letter, I should have a copy. But the copy was only sent to the chairperson.
And do you know where those directives were coming from to reinstate Bala Musa Cham?
It's a teamwork from the president's office. This was why it was revealed by the, how do you call it, the Director General of NIA, that the directives come from State House. So they are related.
Especially in consideration of your evidence that they were benefiting from Bala Musa Cham's financial malpractices at the Birkame Area Council. So State House had a special interest in making sure that he retained his position, irrespective of the findings of the court, or the commission.
State House Italia kibar wo kibar jeje wo nyawnyandi nyama puru itella nafakang puru isi ate murunda itara wo dinkirato ila nafakang.
Exactly.
And his allegations of fraud have been confirmed by the Paul Commission.
Adung atabeta pala ya menke kanu.
And that is in
Commission nata wo sede andile.
And that is in Exhibit 168, which is the audit report.
Exactly.
Wo beka ito bala Exhibit 168 me alonko la keta kontibo kibaro nyinti.
Exactly.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to tender both letters referred to by the witness. The first one is the letter dated the 13th of February 2006, which is the termination letter of the witness as Exhibit 170. And the second one is dated the 9th December 2005, which is the reinstatement as Chief Executive Officer for Bala Musa Cham as Exhibit 171.
Request granted, Counsel.
So tell us what happened to you at the NIA. You've already explained to us that you received the call from Daba Marena. You went to the NIA office. You were escorted by one Demba Sow to Quadrangle, whereupon you were served with the termination letter.
Sa fanye mune natake katu yenyum foko altata NIA la visoto Daba Marena ya bitun albori muje Demba Sow e wotumo wala al dandang albori muje biral futata je albori muje wotumo long ya altata Quadrangle.
So essentially the NIA were supervising you being issued with the termination letter, yourself and the chairman.
Amunda NIA lebe akonyin kunnanu ka tabandi ibale baila do kola tumena itanin chairman.
Exactly. And you said after that you were escorted back to the NIA.
Ndo kola lo iko yali murundi nankali dandan nankata NIA kotake.
That's correct.
Can you tell us if you know why your termination letter was not given to you in your office? Why did you have to come to the NIA and be escorted to Quadrangle for that to happen?
Fodu yalon ne ko memba koma munane mela lotero dila ila office kono fo kaidan dan nan kana NIA kaboto kata Quadrangle kana murun nan ko take.
It's a very good question.
The
best answer I can give to that was
because
the first attempt failed. Writing a letter to reinstate somebody whilst the incumbent didn't have any copy of it. That was the first premeditated plan which failed. The only way they can move us away is to relate us to NIA's connection, easily make us to move there, and then we are captured as captives. There is no going back again. That's
So
it.
the NIA were basically enforcing the directives of the President's office.
Exactly.
They were being used as a vehicle
Yes.
for the wishes of the executive. So what happened when you returned back to the NIA office?
Well, we were detained according to Daba, because his last words to us was, anyway, the Bumbato, as known in Mandinka, the State House,
Bumbato ko State House commanding Korealo Nyami,
that you have to stay here until we are able to have confirmation for your release. So that's the way we were detained.
So after your termination, you were detained at the NIA?
At the NIA, after receiving the letter of termination.
And before we close for the break, just tell us how long your period of detention at the NIA was as soon as you had received that termination letter. We will explain after the break.
It was from the 13th of February 2005 to the date of 21st March of Ndur Cham's abortive coup.
Did you mean to say 13th of February 2006 or 2005?
2006.
2006.
And how long was that period?
A month.
Thank you very much, Mr. Jammeh. We have to close for the break.
Okay.
I hand you over to Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Council. We will take a 30-minute coffee break and come back at 12:15. But in the meantime, if you can just come for a brief consultation. Thank you.
Thank you
Meeting is
very much,
adjourned.
Mr. Chairman.